It was a stormy night in 1842 when the small but formidable estate of the Blackwood family fell silent, forever altering the course of history. Nestled in the rolling hills of northern England, Blackwood Manor had stood for centuries, a symbol of the family's wealth, power, and influence. The manor, though majestic, was shrouded in an aura of mystery, with its towering stone walls, overgrown ivy, and the thick, ancient oak trees surrounding it. There were whispers in the village below, rumors of hidden rooms, forbidden knowledge, and a curse that had haunted the Blackwood family for generations. Among those secrets, none were more troubling than the sudden and unexplained death of Lord Victor Blackwood, the head of the family. Lord Blackwood had been a man of great repute, respected by the aristocracy and feared by his rivals. His business dealings were known to be ruthless, his mind sharp and calculating, always several steps ahead of the competition. He had built the Blackwood estate into a formidable force, one that controlled vast portions of land and had connections that reached the highest levels of government. However, his rise to power had not come without cost, and it was believed that the family's immense fortune had been built on both opportunity and secrets. On that fateful evening, the weather had turned, with a torrential downpour casting an oppressive gloom over the estate. The winds howled through the trees, bending them as if nature itself was mourning. Inside the manor, all seemed calm, with the family gathered for their evening meal, unaware that it would be their last night as they once knew it. Lord Blackwood had retired to his study as he often did, seeking solace in his books and correspondence. His study, a grand room filled with ancient tomes and maps, was his sanctuary. It was here, amid the scent of old leather and ink, that Lord Blackwood had uncovered many of the family's secrets he had never dared to share, even with his closest confidants. But that night something was different, something was off. Hours passed, and it was his wife, Lady Eleanor Blackwood, who became the first to notice his absence. She called for him, her voice laced with concern. When there was no reply, she ventured to the study herself, thinking perhaps he had become lost in his thoughts. What she found, however, was beyond imagination. Lord Blackwood's lifeless body lay sprawled across the polished wooden floor, an ancient tome open before him. His face was frozen in a grimace, his eyes wide open, staring at nothing, yet there was no sign of any physical injury. It was as if the life had simply been drained from him. There was no blood, no sign of a struggle, just the stillness of death and the quiet presence of the book before him. The only clue was a piece of parchment, hastily scribbled with a single sentence in a hand that was unmistakably his. "The crown will never forgive." A sense of unease swept over the room as Lady Eleanor stumbled back, her heart pounding in her chest. She called for help, and soon the estate was abuzz with activity as servants and guests gathered around the scene. But despite the flurry of movement, no one could explain what had happened. Lord Blackwood's death was both a tragedy and a mystery that no one could solve. The local constable, a seasoned man by the name of Thomas Ainsley, was summoned to investigate the matter. Ainsley, though skeptical of any supernatural explanations, could not deny the strange nature of the death. He noted the absence of any apparent cause, the eerie stillness of the room, and the fact that no one had heard a sound from the study during the time that Lord Blackwood had died. The servants all attested that they had heard nothing, and Lady Eleanor had been the one to find the body hours after he had last been seen. There was no sign of anyone entering or leaving the study, no sign of forced entry, no footprints in the hallway, nothing to suggest that anyone had been present other than the Lord himself. But it was the words on the parchment that haunted Ainsley the most. "The crown will never forgive." At first, the investigators considered the possibility that Lord Blackwood had suffered from some sort of medical condition, a sudden stroke or heart attack that had left him unable to call for help. But as they examined the scene further, they ruled out such possibilities. There was no sign of a medical episode, no indication that Lord Blackwood had been in any distress prior to his death. Theories began to emerge, each more bizarre than the last. Some suggested that it was the work of a ghost, a restless spirit, perhaps one of the many ancestors who had been associated with the Blackwood family over the centuries. There had always been rumors of a curse, of dark forces at play. Others believed that it was the result of foul play, a conspiracy within the family, or perhaps someone from the outside who had used poison or some other means to bring about Lord Blackwood's untimely demise. The most shocking theory, however, involved the royal family itself. Lord Blackwood had been a powerful figure, with connections to the highest levels of British society. He had been a close associate of the royal court, often seen at the palace in London, and his business dealings were rumored to involve some of the most influential members of the monarchy. It was said that Lord Blackwood had been involved in a secretive project, one that could have altered the course of British history. Some whispered that Lord Blackwood had discovered something so dangerous, so powerful, that the crown would never allow it to be revealed. Had Lord Blackwood uncovered a secret that threatened the very foundations of the monarchy? Had he stumbled upon something that could topple the throne? As the investigation deepened, the rumors only grew. Some claimed that Lord Blackwood had been the last person alive who knew the location of a long-lost royal treasure, a relic that had been hidden away centuries ago and was said to possess unimaginable power. Others insisted that Lord Blackwood had been on the verge of exposing a royal conspiracy, one that involved betrayals, assassinations, and the blood of innocent people. The Blackwood family, meanwhile, was plunged into turmoil. The death of Lord Victor left a void that no one could fill. His wife, Lady Eleanor, was inconsolable, and the children, though still young, felt the weight of the tragedy in their bones. They could sense the dark cloud that had descended upon their family, a cloud that seemed to carry with it a curse that had already claimed their father. As the years went by, the investigation into Lord Blackwood's death turned cold. No new evidence ever surfaced, and the family was left to mourn in silence. Blackwood Manor, once a grand symbol of wealth and prestige, fell into disrepair, its rooms growing dusty and forgotten. But the legacy of Lord Blackwood lived on, an enigma, a man who had uncovered too much, who had been taken by forces beyond his understanding. And so, Blackwood Manor remains to this day, a place of whispers and shadows, a reminder of a time when ambition, power, and a single secret led to a family's downfall.